person's love language and sex language are unique to them. Thank you for the sex talk, Jesus. I'm having a blast. A sex language, please. Daystar churchgoers were shocked to hear that Jonilamb and Doug Weiss's marriage had ended. As a symbol of unwavering faith and community, the couple was once held in high esteem by Christians. They have now come clean about the fact that their relationship has changed dramatically. A lot of people who have feelings for the couple are taken aback by whispers about tension, problems, and secrets. Why was their split so abrupt? In light of this, how does Daystar's ministry stand going forward? Keep watching as we uncover more details regarding this surprising breakup. The breakup was rumored. Friends, colleagues, and the media have all been captivated by the months-long rumors regarding Jonilamb and Doug Weiss's breakup. In the realm of Christian television and radio, Joni and Doug had long been the ideal couple. At Daystar events and on the network's shows, they were constantly seen together in public. The strength of their faith and bond was demonstrated by their unity. However, there were indications of trouble in heaven behind the scenes. The word got out a little bit. The warning signals were subtle at first. Even though Joni and Doug would occasionally quarrel on stage, Doug was noticeably absent from a number of Daystar's major events. In addition, Doug's increasingly nebulous social media posts suggested a more serious issue. While Joni remained Daystar's face, fans noticed that Doug sort of receded into the background. Even though at first it seemed like a passing fad, the reports only grew stronger with time. I thought Doug was satisfied with how the mission was progressing. Were there private issues in their lives that they preferred to keep hidden? When word got out that Doug had been photographed multiple times without his wedding band, the rumors began to swirl. As a result, word spread that the marriage was on the rocks. The accusations followed. Some have speculated that the separation and divergent personalities may be more significant factors. Some said Doug had given up hope because Joni was gaining control of Daystar and she was too preoccupied with her own image. Others said there were whispers of infidelity and trust issues. They were both finally going to crack under the pressure of leading such a large ministry, so the thinking went. After that, the shock set in. Those who had long lauded the couple's relationship were particularly taken aback when they announced they were divorcing. The news piqued the interest of many who wanted to know what had transpired behind closed doors. How did two obviously infatuated people end up breaking up, and what does this portend for Daystar's future? The divorce was a personal issue, so some of their fans were quick to back them up by claiming it shouldn't be discussed. Their ideal Christian couple status had been a pipe dream, according to other fans who felt betrayed by their actions. The rumors continued to circulate and gain steam as more details emerged, since Joni and Doug remained mum about the reasons behind their breakup. After reviewing the documents that were presented to me, including emails, texts, and other correspondence, I stated, "All right, I will speak with Jonathan and Susie again this morning to hear their side. However, I will not engage in further circling." I listened to opposing arguments and saw what they showed me. Going to Daystar and conversing with Jonathan and Susie gave me a spiritual lift, you know? Today, I will publish this interview. You can break it up and examine its components if you want. Once they broke up, what did they do next? Everything appeared to shift in the public eye when word spread that Jonilamb and Doug Weiss were divorcing. For a long time, Joni and Doug were associated with Daystar's success, and their collaboration was widely lauded. Collaborating, they established a foundation that benefited numerous individuals. However, with the news of their marriage's end, everything became murky. The moment the smoke cleared, people began to wonder what happened or what went wrong at that point. Joni appeared calm and collected in the days following the announcement of the split. As one of the original founders of Daystar, she had a responsibility to uphold that reputation, and she did so with unfaltering commitment. It was obvious that she was hurting on the inside, but she didn't want her private life to interfere with her professional life. Daystar was co-founded by her and Marcus, and she had always held the reins. She was now completely alone. She persisted in her efforts to keep Daystar on course, despite occasional feelings of weakness. She was well aware that her own issues could not bring the ministry to its knees, but Doug seemed to retreat and nearly died in front of an audience. Many noticed when he vanished, but at first they assumed he was just taking a vacation from the spotlight. A growing stillness, though, was the result of passing time. Daystar had always included Doug in their plans, but he suddenly seemed to be gone. He was reportedly taking it easy to recover and process what had happened, according to those close to him. He was losing more than just a spouse. He was losing a long-term connection to someone who had meant a lot to him. I don't want to imply that we discussed sexual matters, but that is what he would actually do to you. He never sexted me, but we did discuss it like two adults. I don't tell people about it. He never said an inappropriate thing. We waited to have sexual relations until everyone understood his integrity. Joni reiterated those things to me, but this time I ignored him. When he informed you about the text he was going to send you, you were overjoyed. Regarding it, I had no idea what to think. Is there a book that discusses foul language? To tell you what he would do to you would be inappropriate. Which text? Intercourse was discussed. We had mature conversations about sexuality, but he never sexed with me, and I don't tell anyone about it. He never said an inappropriate thing. We waited to have sexual relations until everyone understood his integrity. Just some sexual small talk, nothing wrong with that. This ain't it, all right? Even if she tells me to, I won't tell her about that. My anxiety levels are skyrocketing. I am not doing well. My body is starting to give me a run for my money. My panic attacks began at that time. Once you saw the text and understood what she was reading, it all made perfect sense. Even with their unity, Joni's relatives were at a loss as to how to help her. The test had been administered to their once described personal ties. As a result of their parents' divorce, Joni's children had to face some difficult challenges. As some of them tried to make sense of what was happening, others consoled their mother in a more subdued manner and urged her to remain strong. The Lamb family was not as close as it once was. The stressful conversations and emotional toll it was causing made this very evident. Friends of the couple were hurt by their divorce. The wedding of Joni and Doug had been an inspiration to many, and Daystar had touched many more. Witnessing its public collapse was shocking. Those who had grown up with Daystar were suddenly questioning their entire worldview. Was the relationship between the Lambs based on genuine values, or was it all an act? Did they keep anything from each other that was known only to them? Joni began to open up more about her emotions as time passed. Even though she was having a hard time adjusting to the breakup, she worked hard to maintain the Daystar name. However, she was adamant about continuing. In an unusual interview, she stated, "Divorce is never easy," her voice steady but melancholy. Standing firm, she declared, "But I know God has a plan for me, and I'm not going to let this define me." Nerves began to knot up as she spoke. News outlets continued to investigate the split, and details started to emerge. The split had reportedly occurred, according to some sources. The couple's divergent visions for Daystar had been a source of tension for some time, and rumors circulated that Joni and Doug's marital woes were to blame. Fighting was no easy feat for Joni. Despite dealing with the reality of her family's dissolution, she remained steadfast in her faith and her mission. In contrast, Rachel and Becca wanted to know what's going on, but I'm not going to spill the beans. She began to trust Jimmy the moment he entered the scene as her. I wanted to avoid embarrassing her or her other children, so I called Jimmy Evans alone before we met with the other 5. On my one-on-one call with Jimmy the day prior to our meeting, he informed me of this. I put forward, hey, this is something I don't know how to process. Could you help me process it? Is this okay? He responded with laughter, it's fine. It's not a big deal at all. After that, he wanted to know if there was anything else we could discuss, to which I responded, yes, the remainder of it can be discussed with everyone in the meeting. I actually did just that, but I refrained from bringing it up in front of them. On the edge of my seat, I didn't go talk to anyone else about sexual things. All is normal and dreary. It sounds like we discussed marital rituals based on the way she describes sexual matters. Since it had caused tension in his marriage, we would approach the topic in a constructive manner. This is his main source of income. The awful silence was centered around Doug. His public silence following the breakup fueled further speculation. Speculation circulated that he was about to leave the church and Daystar, allowing him to concentrate on his personal life. Some assumed he would quietly assist Joni and avoid the limelight, thereby diminishing his significance in the church. Rumor has it that Doug was secretly struggling with his emotions. He was struggling with feelings of loss, sadness, and betrayal. The breakup deeply wounded him. He had reportedly spent days reflecting on his life, trying to make sense of what had happened and how he could have handled things differently, according to those close to him. He had dedicated himself to Joni and their common objective, but now that things were turning out differently, it felt like a completely different world. The news outlets speculated on the couple's reasons for divorcing and kept shifting the storyline. Daystar, power struggles, infidelity, and ideological differences were all whispers. Everyone had an account, but no one had the complete truth. Not only did the Daystar ministry suffer as a result of the split, but Joni and Doug had also taken a major hit. Thus, it was evident. What the future held for Daystar was unclear. Joni was eager to continue the mission, that much was clear. Would she be able to handle it on her own? Does Daystar still have the support of her staff and allies? Or will she become weaker as a result of the disputes within the Lamb family? What would become of Doug was another concern. He contemplated returning to Daystar or altering his future plans. Upon the conclusion of events, the futures of Joni and Doug were equally clouded with uncertainty and mystery. They, along with everyone else on their mission, would need to be strong and resilient to survive the challenges that lie ahead. Jonilamb and Doug Weiss's story was obviously far from over, though. What came next was a mystery to everyone. A fresh beginning had just begun in terms of healing, getting better, and discovering a way forward. It was an ongoing journey for those who were following their story piece by piece. In that case, the speech wasn't terrifying or triggering a panic attack. Was it necessary for me to inform you? Doubtfully no. That taught me a lesson. I should have sought advice from my close friends who are married and have been for a long time. Apologies for the oversight. I really should not have brought that up in our conversation. I understand, and I appreciate it. By the way, I am in no way attempting to obtain an apology. I wanted to inform you that you believe I exaggerated when I claimed that we discussed sexual matters with Robert Morris. It was a cautious stride on my part. The question that arose in my mind was, what's right? Robert Morris took an action that none of you did. Just so you are aware, I spoke with Robert and Debbie following your meeting with him. You know what? We both know it. However, I'd like to tell you something that I told Robert. Asking, are some things okay? And considering whether or not to inform my husband about it were my only attempts at broaching the subject. Is it my responsibility to ensure that my preacher continues to offer me sound counsel? After he acknowledged the significance of the conversation, he ended it. Beyond that, I refrained from discussing sexual matters with anyone else. Actually, I was extremely cautious out of reverence for God. So, what's the plan for the future? After their divorce, Jonilamb and Doug Weiss are both at a crossroads in their lives, and the question looms over them both. When they broke up, it was a devastating blow to everyone involved, including Daystar, their mission, and all of their devoted fans. They've reached a turning point in their adventure, and the future is anyone's guess. Though she is fearful of the unknown, Joni is resolute in her determination to go ahead. Daystar, she has always maintained an authoritative posture. She has laboriously maintained the network's prominence in Christian television, which she co-founded with her late husband, Marcus Lamb. Following her breakup with Doug, Joni once again devoted herself fully to her job. She is now intent on ensuring that Daystar's objective remains on course. However, we cannot ignore the impact this has had on her directly. She was surprised by the ways in which her vulnerabilities have been exposed by the public nature of her breakup. The difficulties of being a single woman leading a global church have finally caught up with Joni, who has long been admired by her followers as a strong woman. The ministry's operations consume a great deal of her time, and she is already feeling down due to the breakup. There's no denying that she has changed for the worse. She used to be unbeatable due to her strong self-confidence and iron will. She has become more introverted and contemplative recently. Whatever the case may be, Jonilamb is not the type to give up easily. Too much has happened to her for this inability to define her. She plans to continue running Daystar, but with a new strategy. Some speculate that she might utilize this to give Daystar a more authentic, personal version of herself, by putting in even more effort into her role, using her personal growth and healing as a springboard. She may increase her marketing and community building efforts, forging a closer connection with her audience. Another possibility is that Joni will choose to start a new project aside from Daystar. Despite her notoriety, she may choose to begin anew, emotionally and professionally, now that her marriage is over. She may find a path that better suits her current self by following her artistic side, and she has always had grand ideas. Jonilamb has the potential to shock everyone if she decides to take a totally different path in life. She could accomplish this in a number of ways, including launching a media startup, collaborating with like-minded organizations, or penning a memoir. The future is uncertain for Doug as well. Following the breakup, Doug disappeared from public view, leaving many to speculate about his future plans. Longtime member of the Daystar family, he seemed to have nowhere to go in the church as things began to fall apart. Despite Doug's unwavering support for Joni's Daystar plans, he is clearly struggling to cope with the strain of the divorce and the church's transformation. Denise writes to the Lambs in this letter, "The 3 children and their siblings, as well as Susie, Rachel, Josh, Rebecca, Jonathan Weiss, and myself were all sent it." She concludes, "Dear Lamb family, I'm writing this letter with a heavy heart. Just before the baby shower, I met Joni last week. I felt completely unprepared as she spoke. I had no idea who she was. She appeared to be being misled. Despite the fact that what she told me was incredibly offensive to a Christian woman, she couldn't help but laugh when she related the incident involving Doug. It changed the Jonilamb I knew into someone who seemed happy. The moment you cave to flattery, it's like someone is trying to lure you in with their charms. In spiritual battles, the actions of an enemy's evil spirit reveal who you're up against. When someone is being attacked, they are driven to lie by a spirit of deceit. If it wants to get in first, and a manipulative spirit will use flattery. A man's goal in charming a woman is to discover her emotional vulnerability. A woman can be easily manipulated once she falls for flattery. In Galatians 5, the Bible says, "Do not have fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them." When evil is happening, we have a choice. We can either ignore it or confront it head on. Because of this, charisma precedes dishonesty. Someone gets stuck and tricked when they give in to flattery. The flattery is a way for the enemy to find your weak spot. During our early dating years, Joni would ignore my concerns about Doug and instead look out for his best interests. At this point, my fear set in. It seemed to me like a ghost had manipulated her. She used to be dead set on the same things I cautioned her against. After dedicating so many years to becoming one half of the most famous Christian television couples, some have speculated that Doug may finally retire from the limelight. Maybe he'll realize he needs a less hectic life. He could opt for a more reclusive lifestyle, free from the pressures of public life, to concentrate on his personal development and health. Outside of preaching, Doug might discover fulfillment in something entirely different. Counseling, business, or an entirely uncharted path could lead him to it. Doug may decide to return to public life, but he will do it in his own way. The breakup with Joni and Daystar may give him the space he needs to rediscover who he is. Perhaps he'll team up with some fellow churchgoers to create something more suited to his idea, or he'll launch a new business. What lies ahead for Doug is still up in the air. There are many paths open to him, whether he wants to remain immersed in Christian television or try something new. Daystar is an area where the network is still figuring things out. Even though her private life is in shambles, Jonilamb remains in control. The question is if the network will be able to weather her leadership, or if the public's reaction to her divorce and marital issues will have a negative impact on the church. A number of individuals are concerned that the ongoing disputes within the Lamb family may irreparably damage Daystar's credibility and influence. People also believe that the ministry will be able to overcome this and even thrive because of Joni's resilience and commitment to it. Who will lead Daystar after Scott is gone is another major concern. After Marcus Lamb's death and the breakup of Joni and Doug, many are asking who will head Daystar going forward. Some are curious as to whether or not the network will seek out new executives from outside the Lamb family. Many believe Joni's offspring have what it takes to become influential leaders in the church. The future of Daystar is even more enigmatic, since no clear answer has been provided. The divorce of Joni and Doug will have both immediate and indirect consequences, including on their relationships with their fans. For years, the Lambs have enjoyed widespread acclaim in the Christian media industry. However, their public struggles may alienate some listeners. However, there are many who will stand by their side and provide constant encouragement while they face this challenging period. Some will find that their connection with Joni and Doug will deepen as a result of their split, seeing them as genuine individuals going through tough times similar to everyone else. How Joni and Doug manage their own lives moving forward might determine Daystar's fate. Some people might not be able to get past this. Everyone is eagerly anticipating the next few months to see how Daystar, Doug Weiss, and Jonilamb play out. Can they salvage their professional and personal lives? With new management at the helm, Daystar is likely to take a different approach. Will Joni keep on as its leader? Whatever the outcome, it will shape Daystar's trajectory and the future of Christian broadcasting for decades to come. Where this journey leads us in the long run is something only time can reveal. However, for the time being, everyone is curious about what will happen next, because the future of the Lambs is unclear.